Before I read the benediction, I want to call your attention to the calendar. I want to make you aware that today is what typically is called Sanctity of Life Sunday, as started by then President Ronald Reagan in 1984. Sanctity of Human Life Sunday is typically the third Sunday in January, just before January 22nd. Because on January 22nd, 1973, in a case called Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court, in a 7-2 decision, with the stroke of a pen, passed a ruling which denied legal protection to the unborn. And consequently, since 1973, it has been virtually impossible here in the United States of America to pass a law protecting those who are incapable of protecting themselves, unborn children. Legal scholars have analogized this decision to the 1857 Dred Scott decision, where there the Supreme Court said a slave is not a person within the meaning of the law. And sadly, our Supreme Court did virtually the same thing about 41 years ago, when they said an unborn child is not a person within the meaning of a law. Consequently, laws which are put into existence to prevent abortions, to protect those who are incapable of protecting themselves, suddenly in 1973 became unconstitutional. Sugarland Bible Church is a pro-life church. And in fact, I would just assume we got rid of pro-choice, pro-life vernacular. Because there are only two positions. There is pro-life and there is anti-life. As much as everyone is talking about choice and privacy, think about this just for a minute. Every choice that's made in the realm of an abortion stops a heart from beating. It's not a choice. It's either life or anti-life. And if you are a biblicist, you understand that this is what the Bible says. Psalm 139 and verse 13 says, For you formed my inward parts. You wove me in my mother's womb. Jeremiah 1 verses 4 and 5 says, Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you as a prophet to the nations. In fact, if you examine our position statements found in our church constitution, you will see our pro-life stand, and you will also see those very verses that I just quoted cited. Beyond that, medical technology has advanced to the point where what is taking place in the womb of the mother is indisputably a person. The Roe v. Wade decision has been in effect for 41 years. If there are 1.5 million abortions per year, that means 55 to 60 million lives have perished because of this Holocaust. And you can think about all of the Holocausts in human history. You can think about genocide that is taking place, sadly, in some parts of the world today. And may I just say, all of them pale in comparison to the deaths of 60 million Americans. Think about this for a minute. We have 300 million people right now in our country. What if 1 out of every 5 people just disappeared? Think of the collapse of our population. And that gives you a very small window into what we have done to the unborn since 1973. And if that weren't enough, we say to people, we're going to take your tax money and use it to subsidize abortion. And by the way, and I'm going to just go ahead and say it, the Obamacare legislation says this: if you are a business and you are Christian, or you are a hospital that's Christian owned and operated, we will force you to carry an insurance policy that's pro-abortion, even though you may be pro-life in your convictions. This whole thing has gone way beyond simply an individual woman choosing to terminate a pregnancy. It is something that, as I speak, is being forced and coerced on the rest of us. And so this was the type of thinking that Ronald Reagan had when he ordained or outlined for us Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. It's a time period where we stop and reflect about this great injustice that has been committed in our land. It's a time where we stop and think, my God, what have we done as a church? Because we, at some point, stopped seeing ourselves as stewards of this marvelous participatory government that has been handed to us. And the church withdraws, and suddenly the people that get control of it are individuals that do not share the founding values of our country or biblical values. This is the result of it. And so Pro-Life Sunday, or Sanctity of Human Life Sunday, is a time of mourning. It's a time of prayer. And it's a time of commitment and work where we decide we're going to re-enter the culture and we're going to reverse a horrific catastrophe that was done back in 1973. I wrote 2 blog articles over the last 2 weeks, which I've made available on the back table, covering some parts of the decision that you may not know much about. I make 4 simple points in those 2 articles. There's a part 1 and a part 2. You can get those on the way out if you're interested.